If you've ever felt confused by a woman who seems warm one moment and distant the next, I want you to stay with me for a few minutes. What you think is avoidance may not be rejection at all. And near the end of this video, you'll understand why some of the most powerful attraction signals feel uncomfortable rather than obvious. Before we go deeper, if you value calm, honest psychology that helps you understand yourself, not just dating tactics, consider liking this video and subscribing. Not for me, but so more men can hear conversations like this instead of noise. Now let's begin gently. Many men are taught a very simple idea about attraction. If she likes you, she moves closer. If she doesn't, she moves away. That belief sounds logical, but human psychology is rarely that clean, especially when emotions are involved, especially when a woman feels a deeper pull than she expected. Here's the truth most men were never taught. Emotional attraction doesn't always create pursuit. Sometimes it creates self-protection. When a woman is mildly interested, she's relaxed, she jokes, she responds easily. There's nothing at stake. But when attraction deepens, when it starts to touch her sense of identity, vulnerability, or emotional safety, her nervous system changes. And that's where many men misread the situation. You see distance and assume disinterest. She feels intensity and instinctively regulates it. Psychologically, this is called emotional containment. When someone feels something strong but isn't sure it's safe, stable, or aligned with their values, the mind creates space, not to escape, but to breathe. This isn't games, it's self-regulation. A woman who is deeply attracted but emotionally intelligent will often slow herself down. She may become quieter, more measured, less reactive. Not because she's losing interest, but because she's trying not to lose herself. And here's where it gets subtle. When attraction is shallow, there's nothing to lose. When attraction is deep, there is risk. Risk of disappointment, risk of attachment, risk of wanting something that could change her emotional balance. So she doesn't rush. She watches. She pulls back slightly, not to make you chase, but to observe who you are when things are not being handed to you. This is where many men unintentionally fail, not because they're unworthy, but because they panic. They over-explain. They over-pursue. They try to close the distance instead of respecting it. And in doing so, they confirm her fear that emotional closeness might cost her peace. A grounded man doesn't interpret space as abandonment. He doesn't punish it or try to control it. He remains steady. And steadiness is incredibly attractive to a woman who is already feeling something deeper than she planned. There's another layer here that's rarely discussed. Women are often taught implicitly to be cautious with their emotions, to assess safety before surrender. So when attraction grows, her mind asks questions her mouth doesn't ask out loud. Is he consistent? Is he emotionally stable? Does he respect boundaries without needing reassurance? Does his self-worth collapse when I step back? Distance becomes a test, not of your effort, but of your emotional posture. And this is important. True attraction doesn't need constant contact to survive. In fact, it often grows in quiet. If she still shows warmth when she returns, if the connection feels calm rather than chaotic, if her presence feels intentional rather than obligatory, you may not be dealing with avoidance at all. You may be witnessing attraction that is thoughtful, contained, and far more serious than it appears on the surface. And what that kind of attraction responds to is not pressure, but presence. Stay with me, because understanding what to do next requires a level of self-respect most men were never encouraged to develop. Now let's dive even deeper into what it really means when a woman pulls back while still showing subtle signs of interest. It's easy to misread this as rejection. Most men do, but the reality is far more nuanced and far more telling about her feelings for you than her distance alone ever could be. When attraction is genuine and profound, it triggers a mixture of curiosity, excitement, and caution in her mind. The excitement makes her want to move closer, but the caution asks her to pause, observe, and evaluate. And this pause can feel like a cold shoulder if you're interpreting her behavior through the wrong lens. Think about it like this. Emotional chemistry is not linear. It's not a simple push and pull that you can decode with logic alone. Instead, it ebbs and flows depending on her sense of safety, how she perceives your stability, and her internal balance. A woman who is deeply drawn to you is constantly checking. Is he the kind of man who can handle the depth of what I feel? Does he respect me when I need space? Can he remain steady when I am unpredictable? These questions don't come from manipulation, they come from emotional intelligence. She's assessing not just attraction, but compatibility, reliability, and emotional safety. And because she's doing this subconsciously, her actions can seem inconsistent. One moment she's warm and engaged, the next moment she's quiet or reserved. It's important for you to notice patterns instead of isolated moments. If her warmth returns after pauses, if her engagement feels genuine rather than forced, if she initiates connection in subtle ways, these are signs she is not avoiding you. They are signs of her deep attraction. Here's the psychological truth most men miss. Intensity of attraction does not always translate into constant presence. In fact, when attraction is profound, it often triggers restraint. She's not retreating because you're losing her. She's retreating because she wants to see who you are when she isn't in front of you. She wants to see if your confidence, patience, and self control are as strong as they seem. And this is where your reaction matters most. Many men respond to distance with anxiety, over texting, or over explaining. That behavior can unintentionally create tension, making her wary of closeness. A deeply attracted woman senses these responses instinctively. She notices your inner stability or instability without you needing to say a word. So, the next time you feel that subtle pullback, resist the urge to fix it. Instead, focus on your own presence. Maintain your values. Keep your life rich, consistent, and emotionally balanced. The more grounded you are, the safer she feels to explore her attraction to you. Remember, her restraint is not a withdrawal of affection. It's a window into the depth of her feelings. She is holding space for you both, for her own emotions, and for the possibility of something meaningful with you. When you start seeing distance, not as rejection, but as a sign of growing emotional intensity, you step into a level of attraction most men never even recognize. You begin to move from reaction to understanding, from confusion to clarity, and clarity is magnetic. It doesn't force connection. It allows her to feel it naturally. If you're ready, I can write section 3 next, which will explore the specific behaviors women show when they're deeply attracted, even if they appear distant, and why these behaviors are almost always misread. Let's now look closely at the subtle, almost invisible ways a woman shows deep attraction, even when she seems distant. These are the signs that most men miss entirely because they're looking for loud or obvious cues. Understanding them requires patience, observation, and emotional sensitivity, but once you see them, the picture becomes crystal clear. One of the first signals is what I call intentional attention. She may not be texting you constantly or responding immediately, but when she does engage, her focus is real. She listens, remembers details, and her responses show thoughtfulness. She's invested in the quality of the interaction, not just quantity. That focus is a form of attraction that can feel heavier than casual affection. It's deliberate, meaningful, and often understated. Another sign is emotional mirroring. You may notice that when you share your mood, she subtly mirrors it, not in a way that copies you, but in a way that indicates connection. If you're excited, she becomes animated. If you're reflective or serious, she matches that energy with empathy. Women don't do this for everyone. It's reserved for people who matter to them. Even if she steps back, those moments of mirroring reveal a deeper emotional resonance. Physical presence also matters, but not in the obvious ways. She may linger in your vicinity, offer small touches like brushing against your arm, or find excuses to be near you without making it overt. These micro behaviors are almost always subconscious and are far more honest than words. Attraction, when strong, often expresses itself quietly and intentionally, rather than with loud gestures. Then there's the paradox of push and return. You may feel brief moments of withdrawal from her. She becomes slightly less engaged, seems preoccupied, or even teases you in a way that creates space. For men unfamiliar with female psychology, this can feel like rejection. But the truth is, she's regulating her own feelings. She's gauging your consistency, your patience, and your ability to maintain calm when she doesn't demand your attention. If your reaction is steady rather than anxious, her attraction often deepens. Even her curiosity reveals her feelings. She'll ask questions, not idle ones, but questions aimed at understanding who you are at your core, your principles, your experiences, your fears, your ambitions. She's looking for alignment with her own values, and this probing is almost always a sign that she wants to know if you belong in her emotional world. Finally, subtle reassurance often comes in disguised forms. She may compliment you indirectly, reference shared experiences, or check in to see how you're doing. It may feel small, but it's intentional. She's signaling, without needing to declare it outright, that you're important to her and that her emotional energy is leaning toward you. The key takeaway here is this: when a woman is deeply attracted, her behaviors are purposeful, but not always obvious. She's not avoiding you, she's measuring, calibrating, and protecting the depth of her feelings. Most men misread this subtlety as disinterest, but the reality is the opposite. True attraction doesn't always look like chasing. It often looks like patience, careful observation, and measured presence. And your ability to recognize and respect this pattern is what sets you apart from the men who misinterpret her signals and lose the connection without ever knowing what hit them. Understanding these behaviors changes your approach completely. You stop reacting from fear or insecurity, and you begin responding with confidence, calmness, and emotional intelligence, the traits that actually fuel attraction rather than push it away. Now that we've explored the subtle ways a woman expresses deep attraction, the next question is crucial. How do you respond in a way that strengthens her feelings without pushing too hard or misreading the signals? This is where most men unknowingly sabotage themselves. And it's not because they're bad partners, but because they don't fully understand female psychology at this level. The first principle is presence, not showiness, not trying to impress, but true emotional presence. When she pulls back or creates space, your task is to remain grounded, to be consistent in your words, your actions, and your emotional energy. When a man can do this, it's magnetic. It communicates to her that she can explore her feelings without fear of destabilizing the connection or you. Patience is equally important. Deep attraction doesn't always operate on the timeline we want. A woman's nervous system is naturally cautious with something that feels significant. If you respond with anxiety, over pursuit, or constant reassurance seeking, you inadvertently confirm her fears. That closeness might bring pressure, tension, or unpredictability. By allowing her to approach at her own pace, you remove those barriers and make her feel safe enough to express what she truly feels. Another critical principle is curiosity without interrogation. Men often misread a question like, "Why did you pull back?" as a simple desire for information. But when she pulls back, it's rarely about the distance itself. It's about observing your emotional stability. Instead of interrogating, listen, observe, and respond with calm engagement. Ask thoughtful, open ended questions when appropriate, and show interest in her world without demanding constant validation. Curiosity done this way communicates respect, intelligence, and maturity, qualities that attraction naturally gravitates toward. Boundaries are also powerful. A woman who is deeply attracted will often test them, not to manipulate, but to gauge how self assured you are. This could be as simple as small disagreements, teasing, or moments of mild tension. Your response should be steady, respectful, and grounded. By maintaining your principles without overreacting, you reinforce your value in ways words alone never could. Equally important is emotional reflection. Notice her moods, her subtleties, and her energy without attempting to control it. A deeply attracted woman responds not to manipulation, but to resonance. If your presence aligns with her emotional state, she feels understood and safe, without needing to consciously realize why. When she senses this stability, her attraction deepens naturally, often far more than with overt gestures or attention seeking behavior. Lastly, maintain your life fully outside of her. One of the most attractive things a man can do is to have his own ambitions, routines, and emotional depth. When your life is rich, purposeful, and self directed, it signals that she's adding to a man's already meaningful existence, not filling a void. This creates a dynamic of respect, admiration, and magnetic pull, rather than dependency or anxiety. The common thread here is this: attraction is never about forcing closeness. It's about allowing it to unfold in a way that respects both her emotions and your own. When a woman is deeply attracted, she unconsciously seeks a partner who can mirror calm strength, thoughtful patience, and emotional consistency. Responding in this way doesn't just maintain connection, it amplifies it. And this is where most men fail. They treat distance as rejection rather than a sign of emotional intensity. They respond from fear rather than understanding. The men who succeed are the ones who can see her behavior as what it truly is: a reflection of her attraction, tempered by caution, and waiting for a man who can meet her on that level. Now, let's focus on the hidden signals that reveal a woman's deep emotional investment, even when she seems quiet, distant, or reserved. These are the behaviors most men overlook entirely because they expect attraction to look loud, obvious, or constant. But when you understand these signals, you begin to see that what seems like avoidance is often the clearest proof of her interest. The first hidden signal is emotional recall. She remembers small details about you, things you might not even think matter. The book you mentioned once, the story you shared about your childhood, even a casual comment you made about a goal or frustration. When she brings these details up later, it's not coincidence. It's her mind holding on to meaningful moments, signaling that she values you at a deeper level. Most men dismiss this as, she's just polite, but it's a quiet, persistent way her brain is connecting with yours. Another subtle sign is selective sharing. When a woman opens up about her fears, her dreams, or her personal experiences, especially if she rarely does this with others, she is signaling trust and attraction. This kind of vulnerability isn't casual. She doesn't share it lightly. If she's confiding in you, even sparingly, it indicates that your presence matters enough for her to take a risk emotionally. Look for the interplay of proximity and distance. She might create space one moment, then return with warmth or attention. This ebb and flow is not indecision, it's emotional calibration. Her nervous system is regulating intensity, but the fact that she comes back, engages meaningfully, or maintains a consistent interest over time is one of the clearest signs that her attraction is real and growing. Pay attention to indirect gestures of care. These aren't grand or overt, they are subtle and consistent. Checking in when you had a difficult day, remembering to ask about a meeting or a challenge, or even small acts like making sure you feel acknowledged. These behaviors are often unconscious, yet they are deliberate expressions of her attention and emotional commitment. Humor and playful teasing can also reveal deep attraction. A woman who is emotionally invested will often test boundaries gently through jokes or teasing, but it's always aimed at connection, not hurt. She wants to see how you respond under light tension. Your reactions in these moments communicate emotional compatibility more powerfully than any words. Finally, notice her energy when she interacts with you compared to others. Does she make subtle efforts to maintain eye contact? Does she give her focus more readily to you than to someone else in the same room? Does her presence feel heavier, warmer, or more deliberate around you? These are nearly impossible to fake consistently. They're almost instinctual, emerging when she feels genuine attraction and emotional resonance. The pattern is clear. Women who are deeply attracted rarely scream it or chase relentlessly. Instead, they create moments, pay attention, and allow themselves to invest emotionally but cautiously. This cautious investment often looks like distance to the untrained eye, but it's actually a profound indicator of interest. Here's the underlying principle: attraction at this level is not about chasing, it's about who holds themselves with stability and calm while allowing the connection to breathe. When you recognize these hidden signals and respond with grounded confidence, you don't just maintain attraction, you strengthen it. You begin to mirror the level of emotional depth she is already offering, creating a bond that grows naturally over time. Most men never see this. They misinterpret subtle care, recall, and calibrated presence as indifference. But once you understand these signals for what they are, everything changes. You start seeing attraction where others see avoidance, and this understanding allows you to respond with intelligence, patience, and magnetic presence. At this point, it's time to reveal the ultimate truth about attraction that most men never fully grasp. If she's showing subtle care, remembering details, mirroring your energy, creating moments of closeness, and then pulling back just enough to test your stability, she is not avoiding you. She is deeply attracted. And that attraction is far stronger than words, texts, or fleeting attention could ever convey. Here's what's remarkable. Women don't always express their feelings in ways that feel obvious because deep attraction is tied to emotional intelligence, not impulsive pursuit. The more emotionally mature she is, the more carefully she regulates her attention, creating a rhythm that feels unpredictable to you, but it is intentional. She's assessing, observing, and protecting herself while still letting her interest grow naturally. Understanding this changes everything. It means that what feels like distance or inconsistency is actually a mirror for your own emotional strength. If you react from insecurity, you trigger fear. If you remain grounded, you unlock attraction. Her behavior is never random. It's a subtle invitation for you to step into your full presence, to demonstrate patience, confidence, and emotional stability, the qualities she is unconsciously looking for. Think about it this way. Deep attraction doesn't need chasing. It thrives when a man allows it to exist naturally, responds thoughtfully, and maintains his life fully outside of her. She can feel your self respect, your emotional consistency, and your ability to stay steady when she retreats. And paradoxically, that stability draws her closer more than anything else. The final piece is quiet but essential. Respect her rhythm. She is signaling interest, but she is also signaling that emotional depth matters to her. She wants a connection that feels safe, genuine, and reciprocal. She's not testing you to play games. She's testing you to see if you can meet her at the level of seriousness her feelings demand. A man who understands this instinctively becomes magnetic because he is showing exactly what she is seeking without saying a word. So if you notice her subtle care, her thoughtful engagement, her measured attention, and the moments of return after space, know this: she is not avoiding you. She is drawn to you in ways deeper than casual attraction. And her restraint is not rejection. It's proof of the intensity of her feelings. Your role is simple, but it requires discipline. Stay grounded, maintain your presence, respect her rhythm, and never let insecurity dictate your actions. When you do this, you stop chasing, stop misinterpreting, and start creating the kind of attraction that is lasting, meaningful, and rare. This is the psychology most men never learn. It's why she seems mysterious or difficult to read, but it's also why, if you understand it, you can see clearly what others cannot. The subtle signals of deep attraction are there for you to notice, and your response can turn them into a connection that grows stronger over time, naturally and powerfully. Remember this the next time she pulls back, pauses, or seems distant. Her behavior is not rejection, it is evidence. Evidence that her attraction is real, thoughtful, and profound, and that the way you meet her emotions will define whether it deepens or fades. Stand steady, observe, respond with calm intelligence, and let the depth of her attraction unfold naturally.